In roller derby, holding space is an empowering, often intimidating act of strength and strategy for oneself and/or teammates. Holding Space, the podcast, clears the floor for conversations that touch upon race, class, identity, and privilege to amplify stories, build community, and make more connections in the skate world. Expect lots of smart, dope skate people musing about life on and off 8 wheels and silliness. Can't forget the silliness that you never knew you needed and won't be able to live without. This is Holding Space with Magical Wheelism. Welcome. What's up, y'all? One of my favorite things about roller derby is meeting motivated people who are pursuing all types of passion and interests, not only in roller derby. I love getting to know my fellow skaters, what moves them, and what stories they bring with them onto the track. I feel like it's hardly a coincidence that we've been brought into each other's awareness to play a sport practiced by maybe 1 million folks around the planet. And my spidey senses have never let me down. Derby folks are fascinating. Today, I'm happy to spotlight one such person. My friend Liann, L-Dubz Wadewitz, skates in Gotham Girls Roller Derby's Rec League program and is an on-skates official in the league. She works in television, plays the violin in a local queer-friendly orchestra, and recently rode 480 kilometers, nearly 300 miles, on horseback in an endurance race through Mongolia's Gobi desert. All that, and she has enough time to make her own kombucha. What? Thank you for coming on and speaking with me.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me.
You're so rad. But in checking your pre-interview form info that I get, that questionnaire that I sent you, I was like, this woman sounds like your responses were Mad Lib responses were in the coolest way. It was like I'm a Brooklyn resident. It was roller derby, kombucha, play violin in a queer orchestra. She is amazing.
I was trying to figure out what to write, and I was like, this? I didn't know what sounded good.
The truth sounds awesomer than fiction, frankly. L-Dubz, you are the friend that's the silent one. And when they speak, they just knock you off the chair.
That's very nice of you to say.
Of course. No. And so I remember, we know each other through Gotham and Gotham's rec program. For the past few years, we have skated together and become friends. Yes. And I recall one lovely, after rec session, I was like, I think you'd alluded to traveling. You were like, I was like, oh, that's dope. Where are you going? Yeah. Mongolia.
No big deal.
I'm going to go race. I'm going to go horseback riding through Mongolia.
I don't know.
Come again. And then right after that, I don't know how it came up, but you were like, oh yeah, when I was on my motorcycle, I, happened to go and do X, Y, and Z thing. It's just like, it's just a puzzle and wrapped in an enigma, wrapped and soaked in kombucha.
I do love kombucha. Can you see it?
Everything.
I don't know if you could see it.
I see. You have quite a lab.
Yeah.
Dope. I hope we discuss the kombucha. We get into some K-talk.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I guess let's start from the top. Do you want to formally introduce yourself and give us your background?
My name is L-Dubz, or Liann. Liann is my given name. How long have I been doing derby now? I started in the fall of 2016. Been skating ever since. Loving it.
How did you learn about roller derby? How did you find yourself at Gotham stores?
So
and explain what you do for them too.
A friend of mine told me I had to watch Whip It. I feel like that's, a great starter. So we watched it. I loved it. And then, I don't know, a year or two after, we went to the Coney Island doubleheader. loved it. And then it just took me a while to start getting involved in Derby. I don't know I think I was interested in Gotham and I wanted to join, but I just didn't think I could do it. So I think I just kept putting it on the back burner. Like, no, like I can't do it. Oh, and then a friend of mine had a birthday party. And she was like, I want to go skate at one of the piers. And I was like, okay, I've never like roller skated on quads before. I had only done figure skating as a kid. And I was like, let's see how this goes. And then it turned out to be really fun. I had a great time. And that was in the summer. Her birthday's in the summer. And then I signed up and I started in the fall. I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. Like I can kind of skate. I didn't fall. Like, oh, wow.
And so you are killing it.
Trying.
Killing it. That you have. You've been amazing. You generally jam for us, right? Is that
jam? I've been doing a lot of blocking because my knee got a little weird at a drop-in. Mm-hmm. I like fell weird, so my knee felt kind of not good. And I've been doing more blocking. So then I started officiating in the beginning of 2017, and then I've been doing it for the past 3 seasons. I did NSOing my first year and then skate reffing these past 2 seasons.
Awesome. What's your experience been like Derby-wise? What was something that surprised you?
Derby-wise?
About yourself or just about everything?
I guess just being like one of the only like Asian players like in rec league and like in the league in general. That's been like shocking to me. But like my whole life, that's been...
What is your background?
My mother is from Taiwan and my father is from Germany. Yeah. But you know, my whole life, like I just, it's like weird to like think about it so much, you know, but like in Derby, like Derby has made me think about it more.
You felt it more?
Maybe it's just, you know, when I started Derby, it was like the month before Trump was elected. And then I feel like after he was elected, I definitely looked at myself differently and felt like other people were looking at me differently. It felt more abundant rather than like, you know, growing up, I didn't think about it that much. And then now I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm like the only like biracial person here. It's fine. Even on the race, there weren't that many people of color. And I knew that.
Mongolians.
Yeah, besides the Mongolians. And then like, it was like four or 5 of us. There really weren't that many. And it's just, it's hard because like, but I knew that going into it, and everybody was like really great about it. But then just today, I heard some woman talking about like how bad the drivers are in Chinatown. And I was like, I like looked at her and then she like stopped talking about it. I was like, why are you talking about this right now? Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like post Trump's election, it's definitely made me think of how I look more to others now than I did before. So it's just been an interesting process. And like in Derby, I see it a lot, but at the end of the day,
I know that we've had experiences that we've kind of shared. Mm-hmm. I remember there, like once, was it in New Orleans that someone had made like a really weird comment about your eyes that like took you back? Yeah. To like put you on the spot.
Yeah, what was that? I'm trying to remember.
And we were like, really? Are you going to say, I think he called you exotic or something?
Yeah, people love calling me exotic. And I'm like, please don't. Please don't. Stop. And then like, even at like family parties I've been to, they've mentioned it. They're like, oh, your eyes. And I'm like, uh-huh. Yep. Thanks.
Can we not?
Yeah.
Relative.
Like, thank you so much.
Thanks, family. Thanks, fam.
I'm like, yeah, like, and even at like RollerCon, like some weird things happened last year. It didn't happen this year, but I don't know. I guess it's just dependent. But like, you know, just waiting online with like, we were waiting online to get a taxi to the airport and there was another Asian woman in front of us and like people just assume that I'm with them. Like the guy like handling the taxi was like, oh, here you both go. And I was like, I'm not with her. You know, I'm like, we're not all friends.
We don't all know each other.
Yeah, I don't know her. Like, we weren't even like, not that this has anything to do with it, but like we weren't even dressed similar. Like I was like in my like Derby like clothes, like very obviously, I don't know. But so that those kinds of things kind of make me go,
It's weird because it's like on the one hand, what is it about being, I guess, like a person of color that you instinctively like kind of like scan the room to find people who look like you or, you know, find someone like relatable. And then when that doesn't happen, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm the different one. Like,
yeah.
like me. and why is it's such a strange feeling? It is. And it's funny you should mention that, because I've also I felt that I've definitely most acutely felt that otherness, that difference, when I've traveled for like derby reasons or derby events in other parts of this country, in the country. And I think that like we need to kind of figure out a way to help people like our own, like derby people, like traveling while, you know, being a person of color in this country is like, it can be bordering on almost traumatic, like just kind of some sort of
because you had some issues too
mental
this
health
year.
resource. I had a run-in with a TSA agent, but it's like it boils down to like even just random white people like feeling that they could just cut in front of me or just say stuff to me, like strangers. It's kind of like so I've been trying to wrap my head around like how to create some sort of resource for that, you know.
That would be great.
Like it could be really handy. There's got to be something to be done about that, because like now that you mention it too, while traveling, I feel like it's a common experience that is another aspect that doesn't really get discussed in terms of like roller derby.
That's true.
Coping.
I know.
You mentioned figure skating, and I obviously know that you can horseback ride. Did you have like an athletic childhood where did you do a lot of sports growing up?
I did figure skating, not like competitively or anything. I would just take lessons and like skate around the local ice rink every week. And then I would do horseback riding once a week as well.
Has any of it like crossed over for you in terms of like your derby experience now, or found any of it to be helpful for you?
So I horseback rode from the age of like 6 to 14, and then I stopped for a long time. And then around the same time I stopped skating as well. And then up until I started derby again, I hadn't been active and I didn't work out or anything. And then finally, like when I started derby, I was like, okay, I have to start exercising, because every week I kept being like really sore. And I was like, this is not good. I should probably do something in the week during the week, so I'm not like killing myself. I started taking rowing classes on an erg. And then at one point, like at the end of one class, I talked to one girl and she was like, oh, I'm going riding tomorrow. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And then she told me that she like rides at the stable in Jersey. I signed up to do that and I took a lesson out there. And then it just, I don't know, kind of blossomed from there. And that it's like kind of like funny how it all came like full circle. I don't know, like how derby like led me back to like horseback riding.
To derby.
To derby. It's just like never ending. And I'm like, it's so weird. But.
Wow. So roller derby is like the keystone habit or sport that sucks in all the sports. Well, and that kind of makes sense, because you think about all of the people who like weightlift or I don't know, just do yoga or like do all these other like cross-trainy things because of derby, to improve in derby. Bowl skating.
Bowl skating. I wish I could like do more of that, but I don't. That's another day.
I mean, like, when are you going to sleep? Because we're going to have to talk about your music.
Yeah, there's so much to do. Too many hobbies. I don't know.
No, and so derby brought you back to derby, and I don't know anything about horseback riding, unfortunately. So if you could tell me if there's any do you do like a specific type of would that be considered equestrianism too?
I think there's different styles. So I, as a kid, I didn't know it was called this at the time, because I did pony club, but I mostly did. I know, it's so cute.
I know.
I mostly did hunter jumper style. So I would do like dressage, jumping, like doing stuff like around the ring, and like I don't even know if I'm like saying this right. I feel like people who do equestrian sports will be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But like as a kid, like, you know, they don't really tell you like, this is your discipline, this is what you're doing. It's just like, go out and ride, you know? Oh, and then we would do trail rides too.
Have fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like you just don't know as a kid.
Totally.
And then the race that I did, it was endurance. And that's a whole nother facet of riding that I didn't even know that existed either. So it's just crazy, like how there's just so many things.
So you, as a kid, you didn't compete though?
I did. And like, you know, like small, like 4-H clubs, like competitions, nothing like big or major.
And then so this endurance type in the Gobi Desert, what was that similar to what you were practicing in Jersey, or did you have to like bone up on it? Did you have to train specifically? I'm sure because of like the amount of time you're on a horse, it must have been really.
The woman the stable in Jersey, I asked her, I was like, hey, I'm doing this race. Can I train with you? And she was like, oh, we don't really do that here. So I was like, all right, that's fine. And then one of the media coordinator and the friend that I traveled out with, she was like, oh, I have a woman we can train with. And I was like, okay, great.
And what did that entail? How long did you have to do that? What's the preparation like for
I definitely should have prepared more, looking back on it. And I was definitely like the most underprepared person there. But I did 2 short like rides that were like 2.5 hours each, I want to say. And the first one went really well. And then I kept trying to schedule more rides, but the weather was like, I didn't want to get like rained on or anything. And then the second one I did, we got completely rained out. It was awful. I got bug bitten terribly. It was so
Where
bad.
where would you do that kind of horseback riding here?
Like in Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had to drive out to Jersey.
And so when did you decide that you were going to do this race? And is it like a well-known race? What made you how did you hear about it?
For some reason, I signed up for like this Manhattan tack shop just to.
What is a tack shop?
What is a tack shop?
Yes.
They have like, it's like a store where you can get like horseback riding, like outfits, gear, like, yeah, that kind of. Tack is like the saddle, the bridle, that kind of thing. I don't even know if they sell those things. I think they do. I'm not sure.
I saw in the press release PDF that you sent me, like, do you have a favorite local tack shop? And I was like, mental note. What
is a tack shop is. And I've never even been to this tack shop. I just signed up for their newsletter. Huh. And then like one day the media coordinator, she wrote a book and she was going to do a reading there. And then they mentioned that she does the media for this for the Gobi Desert Cup. And I was like, oh, what is that? And then I clicked on the link and then like the rest is history.
How long ago, like how long does the sign up process take and the registration process and all that stuff?
That I think I reached out sometime in April and then I signed up. Like I applied thinking that I would get denied. And then like within a week I had signed up.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. I was just like, okay. Like the founder was like, okay, you just have to promise me that you're going to train, like, and like be ready. And I was like, okay, like I'll do it. Like I'll do whatever it takes, whatever. And she's like, all right. She was like, here you go, like sign up. And then I just started there was like payments. So we had to make payments and stuff. So
is it an arduous sort of vetting process or like what are they looking for in a rider?
I think I just had to fill out like a questionnaire, like what is your discipline, like what is your background, that kind of thing. And I think they make a decision based on that.
So there were 24 of you, is that right?
21. We didn't have the full 24. Yeah.
Okay. And then you land in Mongolia.
Yeah, we landed in the capital, Ulaanbaatar, or UB, as everybody kept calling it.
Uh-huh. And how far is the starting point?
It was like it was like a 4 or 5 hour drive from UB.
From the city.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell me about the experience. Tell me about.
It's wild. I'm still trying to, so I came back 2 weeks ago on Saturday. This coming Saturday, it'll been 2 weeks. And I'm still like, I don't know, trying to figure it out. Like I haven't even like processed it. I thought I did at the time. I got like really emotional at the end of it, but I loved it. It was great. It was so hard also. And I don't know how I did it. Every day I'm like, I don't know how I'm alive.
So cool. But I mean, like, if you think about it, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to go horseback riding on my own. And your family has been like, all right.
Yeah.
Was everyone like,
yeah,
I hope you come, like, see you later or come back.
Yeah. my boyfriend was like, what?
Yeah.
He was like, are you kidding me? He was like, you're going from 0 to like 1,000. He was like, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, are you sure? And I was like, it's fine. It'll be fine. And my parents were like really supportive of it. My boss was really supportive of it. It was just, and then everybody in Derby, of course, is like, yeah, do it.
Sounds rad. It does.
Yeah.
What was your motivation for doing it? Was it the thrills? Was it the seeing the world? Was it the horse?
I think like
or the horses. I don't know.
everything. I mean, ever since I stopped riding, I've been wanting to ride again. So just like having that experience, I was like, oh, okay, this will be great. I've never been to Mongolia. So I was like, this is a great opportunity to be there for like 2 weeks, to like really be there, you know? And
see
then,
the site, like to go across one point to the other. Yeah, that's amazing. In reading it, it was like what, close to 50 miles a day on horseback?
50 miles a day for 6 days. And then we did 2 10Ks for training days before that also. So in all, it was 500 kilometers. So it's like a little over 300 miles in total. So it was a good mix, but a lot of them had you know, a lot of them have their own horses, like multiple horses. And like in New York City, I'm like, where am I going to have a horse?
Where were people from? They were mostly from the States?
There was a good mix. I think like a good chunk of us were from the States, from like here. There was me and my roommate. So she was from New Jersey. And then
did you know her ahead of time?
No, we met once before. We got brunch.
That's
that was
cool.
it. Yeah. And then we ended up rooming the whole time together. And then a few folks from the West Coast, from like Seattle, Portland, San Francisco. A former Derby player actually went.
You're lying.
No,
the Derby world is so small.
And she knew one of our refs also.
No.
Yeah. And then like somebody else, like another one of the Gotham players was like, wait, do you know? They're like, do you know her? And I was like, yeah, she was there. She was great.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And she was really wonderful. And she actually stopped playing Derby because of a concussion. So she got into horseback riding. So she's really
as an alternative to Derby.
Yeah.
As one does.
Yeah, you know, no big deal. And then who else went? There's one lady from London, and then a couple of folks from South Africa and that region, and then some New Zealanders, some Australians, and a woman from Hawaii as well.
Were there different like sort of like riding styles and differences that y'all picked up from each other that way, or tips and what have you?
I was like looking at the riders, like just being like, oh, how did they ride? Like, and just kind of like, yeah, there were definitely some interesting styles. There was a French team as well. Forgot to mention that. And then I would just watch them, and like, you know, we're riding there in like these like heavy, thick, like hiking boots with like half chaps. And like, I feel like for the French team, they rode in like sneakers and regular pants, and they were fine, but they had a lot of endurance background, and the French team won.
So the boots why would one choose to ride in sneakers versus the boots? Like if I would have seen them having success with sneakers, I would have.
I know. I thought about doing it. Yeah, I had a pair of sneakers, and I thought about doing it, but I was just so worried that like the friction would like bother me. But I think it's just I've heard my roommate, she mentioned that a lot of people in endurance ride with sneakers because it's just more comfortable, or just like it's just
I think it'd be lighter.
Yeah, because you're on the horse for so long.
So like you obviously like this took a lot of exertion. What were the pain areas, or what was the hardest part in terms of like physically like dealing with this? And how long did it take you to do the 50 kilometers per day or the 50 miles per day?
It varied depending on the horse you got, because every day we got a new horse. So some days some people had really fast horses. Some days we had really slow horses. So I think they gave you 12 hours to complete it. So we started every day around like 7:30, and then we would have until like 7:30. But it's just too long, I think. And I think like we were averaging like 6 to 8 hours a day, something like that. I think the longest day, I know we had a really long day on the second day, and we got in at like 5 or 6 or something. And I was like, it was too much. But then it was like on the last day, my horse is really fast, and it was like 6 hours.
So what do you like? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you asked me about what
the soreness and the pain. What was it like? The physical aspect of it. Take me there. What was that?
My ankles were killing me, and they're still,
because you have to have to be like tippy-toed almost? Like, or what?
So my stirrups weren't like set up correctly. So I was kind of like, my feet were set up like in not a good position. So I was kind of like standing up the whole time.
Wow.
But like, just like the friction or like the force of like your ankle just hitting like all day. So that like, that really hurt. But my ankles
like
are
bouncing.
Fine now. Yeah, it was just like nonstop.
Word.
What else hurt? I chafed really bad. I thought I would be okay, but I didn't. I brought this thing called Body Glide with me, and it did not help.
Your body didn't glide.
It did not glide. And then I think like days 4, 5, and 6, I couldn't wear underwear anymore.
Ooh.
I just gave up. I was like, I can't, because it was like, even as thin as it was, as my underwear was, it chafed too much. So and it was so much better after that. I was like, had I known, I just would have done this for the whole time. So
beginner's curse.
Yeah. And then what else hurt? Like, yeah, my butt just hurt. Inner thighs hurt after a while. We wore hydration bags, like a Camelback, and then that would be constantly like bouncing on your back. So my shoulders really hurt. But, you know, after a while, you just kind of, we were all taking like ibuprofen and stuff and getting through it. Like, it was fine, like, once you were on the horse, like, doing it. But as soon as you, like, stopped moving, that's when, like, you were like, oh, it's like derby. You know, once you stop moving, it's like, oh, you wake up and it's real painful.
What would go through your mind while you were riding and once you'd, like, taken off?
It was, every day was so different. It was so weird, depending on the horse. So, like, on the first day, like, I was riding with a friend and, like, it was fine. But then by the end of it, we both got really tired. And, like, day 2, like, we all had slow horses, you know. And then on day 3, what else? I had a really good horse.
Is having a slow horse better or worse in terms of, like, the toll it takes on your body? Because obviously you're not going to, like, be competitive.
Yeah, I think for this, it's worse. Because, like, it would get so hot in the afternoon. And then if the horse is already slow in the morning, then it's just like the whole afternoon was like a slog. And it was real rough. So it kind of worked out better. But, like, when you have, like, you know, when you're riding at 7:30 in the morning and you have a horse that just, like, a lot of these horses just want to go. And, like, they trained them as race horses. They trained 150 of these horses. And they trained them to just, like, be in the front of the pack. And then, like, but, like, to have that early in the morning, it's just like a bit jarring. And you don't know if, like, for me, that was like a big thing for me. I was worried about not having control. The first few, the training day, on the second training day, I had like an insanely fast horse, like a legit racehorse. And I couldn't control him at all. We did the 10K in like 40 minutes. And I like got off and I started crying. Oh. And I was like, I don't know if I can do. I was like, oh my God, like, this is insane.
It terrified you. It shocked you.
Yeah, because I had no control. And like my hands, like I had like terrible blisters from like just holding on so hard. And then they had 3 different categories. So they had like a lightweight, a heavyweight, and then a timid category. So then after that training day, I went into the timid category. But it didn't matter. Because
self-placed or they were like, let's put you in timid.
Yeah, they were like, think about it. Like, let us know what you think. And then I was like, I would like to be a timid horse, please.
Yes.
But even then, the horses were still fast. So I'm like, I had 2 horses were fine. And then I had like 3 fast horses. And then I had 1 really slow one that was for like children, I'm pretty sure. And that day was the worst day. I came in dead last that day. Yeah, so every day was just like a challenge because you just don't know what kind of horse you're going to get. And then you don't really know until because we had to break at the 40 kilometer and then we'd have to pass a vet check. And you don't, up
which
until
is like
that
halfway.
Point, yeah, halfway. Right. Yeah, because we would do 80 kilometers every day. So then up until then, you don't really know how the horse is doing. Like, you don't know how fast you're going to go. And then you're like racing with 20 other people on top of it. It was a lot, like, mentally more than I thought. And then it was also much more competitive than I thought. Like, I thought it would be like a little more chill. I was like, 50 miles for 12 hours every day. Like, it'll be fine. And then like the French team were really competitive. And then a few other folks are really competitive as well.
Did people have some sort of like stakes, like monetary stakes or something? They were just really competitive, just naturally, like
Yeah, because I think some folks like I think some folks on the French team were like they did endurance like as like full time or something. So, but there was no money. I mean, we got like the winner got a trophy and a saddle. I got a belt buckle.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you find that the people that were in the race with you were like of like horse professions or just like worked with horses often, or was it just also like a passion?
It was a mix, I'd say, because some folks have like the guy from South Africa, he has his own business. There was another woman who did polo and like does horse trips, but for different disciplines. So it really depended on the person. And then I think some people just wanted to like go and have like a good time and like have a good adventure. Yeah.
Totally
I like
understandable.
Yeah. I'd like a good challenge. So
yeah,
I just wanted to see if I could do it.
And you did it. That's amazing. I know that you just mentioned the vet and the material you gave me, it kind of spelled out how the horses were cared for and that sort of thing, which I'm sure is probably a concern for people. What did you observe in terms of like how the horses were treated and how everything was run? Yeah,
the horses were great. Like we had a herdsman. So a lot of the families that came in, I forget, but they had a bunch of families come in and they brought their own personal horses. So they were like in charge of their horses and they were very well cared for. And then they trained them for 3 months before the race. Yeah, the horses were great. The vets were great. Like we all kind of like turned into this family I wasn't expecting. And like everybody helped each other out. Everybody comes from different walks of life and everybody has different horse experience, but like everybody was so helpful. And like if we were like hot, they would help us. Like on those long days we would come in, they would like those who finished before would like help us immediately and like get us like checked out and get the horses checked out like quickly. And it was just, it was really great.
What ages were people?
I was one of the younger ones. I think it ranged from, there's a guy from Kuwait, I think he was 20, and it ranged up to like 50s, I'd say, mid 50s. So like 20 to mid 50s.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a good mix.
Great. Yeah. So what do you think the biggest challenge for you was? I can speak too sometimes.
You're doing great. The biggest challenge, doing it and completing it. Because every day I was like doubting myself. I was like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Like I have the least amount of experience out of all these people. Like I didn't prepare enough. Like I'm chafing so bad. I was like, I can't, some of the horses I couldn't really handle. So I needed help from other people. It was just like that challenge of just like getting over it and like getting through it every day. That was probably the hardest thing to do. But then, on the days that I had those fast horses, I just let them go. And those were the best days. I was like, well, I'm just going to listen to the horse, because everybody else would like try to give you good hints and like feedback and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just you and the horse. That was like the happiest times, like just like riding and being like, all right, see you later. Like I got it. And that made me feel much better.
So that's how you conquered that. You kind of just like went with it.
Yeah.
Ignored the inner voice, the fears, the talk. I know you said you're still processing this. Do you think that there are any sort of like lessons or, things that could transfer over into your skating and your derby experience?
Probably just like get out of my head. I'm always struggling with that. It's like, should I be here? Like, am I good enough to be here? Am I strong enough to be here? Am I doing this right? Like all that like internal monologue. It's just like, and then you just have to like turn it off and do it. It's so hard to do it though. I still struggle with it so much. But definitely doing this has helped. I'm just like, well, if I can do a 50-mile race every day for 6 days, then I can play some roller derby.
300 miles through the Gobi Desert, B. Like, I got this.
Yeah. So I just need to like keep reminding myself, like, you did this thing. It'll be okay. Turn off the internal monologue and just like do it. That's so hard. So hard.
Have you been back? Have you started back up?
Yeah. When did I go back? I went last week. last Saturday.
And how was that since
It
returning?
was pretty tough. It was pretty hard. And then I went to the boot camps on the Sunday after, and that was pretty hard too. And then
what was hard about it?
I hadn't worked out in like the traditional sense of what I do here. I hadn't taken like a workout class for like 2 weeks. So like in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm not like in shape enough to like be playing derby right now. Like maybe I should have taken more classes when I got back, but I'm so tired. Like my ankles hurt. Like, should I take it easy? Just turning that off.
No, I
and
hear
it was
ya.
fine. Like it was fine. It was fun.
That's
just
awesome.
gotta have fun.
That's what it is. It's all about fun.
It's just so hard.
Speaking of fun, you
Yes.
are also a violinist.
Yes. So I started playing the violin when I was 9. I started on the piano, actually, when I was 6. So when I was a kid, I did piano, figure skating, horseback riding, and then violin. Those are my main things.
Were your parents the ones who encouraged you, or were you like, Mom, I want to do all of the things?
I think piano, they just kind of like signed me up for it. I know for horseback riding, I remember my mom specifically asking me, do you want to do ballet or horseback riding? And I was like, horseback riding. So that I made that conscious decision. But piano, they just signed me up for it. And they were never like too hard on me for it. I never want to practice. So I took lessons from all the way when I was 6, all the way up until high school for piano. And
so you're still able to play the piano, I'm sure.
Yeah, it just takes a while because with the violin, you only read 1 clef, but for the piano, it's 2 clefs.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult I just need to spend more time on it, So then I started playing the violin and I played it all the way up from, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. And then I kept playing after college also. And I'm in a queer-friendly, community-based community orchestra here in New York City.
How did you come to that
orchestra? I looked them up on Craigslist. Yeah, because after I graduated college, I was still playing in my college's orchestra. And then it wasn't like really like a good fit anymore. I just needed to be with people that actually wanted to play versus like students not wanting to play like late at night. So then I just looked up like orchestras in New York City on Craigslist. And then I found QUO, and they don't have auditions, which is another thing I hate. I hate auditions. Like anything where I have to try out or do auditions is like a mental thing where I just freeze up and I freak out. So the good thing with QUO is they were like, oh, we need string players. So then I just joined when did I join? When did I say? 2011. So I've been with them ever since.
7 years. 8 years. I can math.
Yeah. Yeah, I joined in the fall of 2011. Yeah.
And how often do you all practice and perform?
Once a week. They actually just came back, and I'm not playing in this next concert. Their next concert is like October 19th, and with Gotham tryouts and everything coming up, I was like, I'll come back for the next one. Because it was just a little bit too, the rep is a little bit too much. They're playing Harry Potter, which I'm wearing a Harry Potter shirt now, and I've always wanted to play, but and I needed to not have something else to worry about mentally, so I've opted to sit out this concert. I'll go to it for sure and go woo in the audience,
just like that.
So yeah, woo, and like, yeah. They're going to be like, who is this person in the audience? And I'll be like, it's me.
How big is the orchestra?
How big? I think like it's a full symphonic orchestra, so about 60 people.
Do you all travel and perform elsewhere, or is it mostly local?
Mostly local.
All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome because it's a passion. It's just for the love of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's really wonderful.
And it's a good mix of like people like me who do it as a hobby, and then like semi-professional and professional musicians too.
That's great. That's
cool. The range is really good. And everybody's so good. Everybody's really nice. Like we're like a little family.
What type of music do you all play? I know you just mentioned Harry Potter.
We do a mix of like classical and new and contemporary.
What are the crossovers between your orchestra work and your skating and derby work? Does that inform itself in a way?
I want to say yes, but I don't know how. I'm trying to think of how they mix or how they cross over together. I get maybe just the focus. I really like the rehearsals where I can just focus in on something and just focus in on the music and just block everything out. And I feel like with Derby that, you could just focus. I'm going to focus on this plow stop. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to focus on this jam and then it's over, that kind of thing.
Do you find that you're just that type of personality that has so many like different sort of curiosities and loves to have so many things, different sort of activities and interests going on?
I feel like I didn't for a long time. And then once Derby came into the picture, now I'm just like, oh, let me do this. Let me try this. Let me it's just like open the doors to be more curious, be more adventurous. Because I feel like when I first graduated college, I started working in TV shortly after that. I moved to the city. I didn't really know a lot of people.
What was your major?
Communications.
Okay.
With concentrations in film and television. And then I minored in music and religious studies.
What would your advice be for someone who's trying to bring in more hobbies and integrate more, different sort of things while doing Derby? Because obviously Derby has the potential to consume
yes.
all of one's resources.
It's true.
So, how have you been able to manage how you allot those resources via, energy, time?
I was just going to say, trying to find that balance is hard. I don't know, just listening to my body, I feel like is really important. When I'm too tired to do something, I'm instead of trying to push through and do all sitting out this concert is a good example. I don't think it'll be good for me if I do it. So I'm just going to sit out. Not that I don't want to do it, but it's just better for me. Just finding a good balance and making sure you're not overdoing it and making sure you rest enough, do things that are fun. I love to go see movies a lot. So just trying to time in, all right, I'm going to go see this movie with my boyfriend. I'm going to see this movie with my friend, but not overdoing it and not having fun with it.
So being intuitive and listening to your body and,
and take the rest when you need it. Nobody's going to be mad at you if you rest.
Okay. Yeah. And do you have a favorite team?
Gotham's great.
Ever heard of them?
Yeah. Obviously, I love Gotham. Who else do I really like? Crime City Rollers is great.
What about players in particular? Do you have any favorite players?
I love Shorty so much. She's great. Yeah, shortstop.
My last question is, what about an MVP? I always like to ask people for a person, organization, business, issue, cause that you love that for whatever reason.
Well, since we talked about the Gobi Desert Cup so much, I think my MVP would be Camille Champagne. She's the founder of the Gobi Desert Cup.
Tell me more about her.
She's amazing. She's from Australia, but I believe she's also French. And then, I applied to her and spoke with her before the race. And I didn't speak with her verbally over the phone. I had just emailed her. So I wasn't sure what she'd be like meeting her. And then meeting her in Mongolia, I realized that she has the driest sense of humor, but she's badass. But she's also so caring. She brought her daughter with her on the trip. She was adorable. Yeah, she's just badass. She was in the Mongol Derby. She competes in these, long endurance rides. And is a working mother. She manages the race. It's just, I'm still astounded by her and everything that she does.
What made her create the race?
I feel like there was something there. I think she competed in the Mongol Derby, and then I believe she met one of the locals, and they talked about doing this race that benefited and helped out the nomadic families and people of Mongolia, and really highlighted that. And that's how it was born out of the Mongol Derby. Rather than just being a race, it was more about the people.
Thank you so much again for speaking with me.
Yeah, thank you again for asking me. I'm very flattered, very humbled. I hope I didn't say anything stupid.
Never.
I don't know. I'll be laying in bed later being why did I say that?
All right, folks. Well, there you have it. Thanks as always for tuning in. Special thanks to L-Dubz, the Gobi Desert Cup, and Queer Urban Orchestra. The outro music is a piece of Johann Brahms's Symphony No. 1, excerpted from QUO's May 30th, 2015 concert, Music That Leaps Off the Page, Inspiration. Holding Space with Magical Wheelism is now available on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and YouTube. Help support the pod by subscribing and sharing it with friends. Rating and reviewing on Apple Podcasts also helps others find us. I am Modega Cat on Instagram and Twitter. The music in the intro is Latin Rhythm by Sun Searcher, and the cover photo is by James Corbett of Epic Life Images.